Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Dragon Empire Nirvana Jiva crossover dress deck. So of course version 1, everything through the first additional card pass, so through D-Booster Set 7. And this is the first deck where the boss unit from it is actually from the first card pass. So this deck focuses on the newer form of Nirvana and the cross overdress mechanic, which is the upgraded form of overdress, letting you combine Trickstar with the Prayer Dragon units in order to create newer, even stronger forms of Virina. So as always, we will be going through the deck real fast, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with our Ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Surprise Egg. So when it's rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Same starter skill, as always. Next for the Grade 1, we have Heart Pounding Blaze Maiden Reno. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by Snuggling Blaze Maiden Ryu, you search your deck for up to one Trickstar, call it the Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. So basically the same exact skill that the original Reno had, letting you search out a Trickstar and call it the Rearguard, which very important, getting your Trickstars onto your board since you will need them to cross overdress into all your powerful units. And then she also has a continuous ability when she's on Rearguard Circle that says during your turn, if you have a Prayer Dragon unit in the same column as this unit gets power plus 5,000. So Prayer Dragon is a race. All of the dragon cards in this deck with Equip in their name are all your Prayer Dragons, and they are very vital to the deck, but not for this skill since she never really ends up on Rearguard Circle. So this skill doesn't really come into play. So next up for our Grade 2, we of course have Snuggling Blaze Maiden Ryu. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jiva, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to one Prayer Dragon from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So again, very useful skill, helping you get your combo pieces. You dig through the top 7 to find a Prayer Dragon. Now, this could whiff if you don't find one in the top 7, but it is cost-free, so you don't lose anything, even in that situation. And you do have a chance of getting a free +1. So, very, very good skill. And again, like Reno, she has a continuous ability when she's on Rearguard Circle that says during your turn, if you have a Prayer Dragon unit in the same column as this unit gets power plus 5,000. So once again, she never really ends up on Rearguard Circle, so this skill doesn't really affect anything. So then lastly for the Grade 3, we have Chakrabarthi Phoenix Dragon Nirvana Jiva. So it's got an activate ability that says once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to choose up to one Trickstar and up to one Prayer Dragon unit from your drop and call them to Rearguard Circle. So this is a very good ability, basically a free +1, letting you revive both a Trickstar and a Prayer Dragon from your drop to set them up to cross overdress. Which getting free pluses is very important in this deck, considering that cross overdressing itself is inherently a -2. So getting some pluses to mitigate that as much as possible is very important in terms of your card advantage. And then she's also got an auto ability that says when this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1 to choose one of your rear guards in the cross overdress state and stand it. So very simple skill, but very powerful, letting you restand one of your cross overdress units, giving you your 4th attack every turn. And pretty much all of your cross overdress units are going to be hitting for pretty big numbers. So that 4th attack should be pretty threatening as well. So very simple card, but very, very powerful. So that is the Ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the Grade 3s, we do have our 3 additional copies of Nirvana Jiva, double frame rare, for our Persona Ride purposes, of course. So next for the grade 3s, we have our first crossover dress unit, which is 4 copies of Brilliant Equip Braum Virina. So you can crossover dress him on top of 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon unit, which all of the crossover dress units in this deck have those same requirements in order to crossover dress into them. And it basically works the same as overdress, you just stack them on top of each other and then put Braum Virina on top. So both the Trickstar and the Prayer Dragon become your original dress for that unit. And then he's got his continuous ability that says during your turn, if this unit is in the crossover dress state, this unit gets power plus 10,000, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets an additional power plus 10,000. So this card can be a whopping 33,000 on its own, 43 with Persona Ride, and potentially even bigger if you use a specific Prayer Dragon on him or have a booster behind him or whatever. So he can hit for very big numbers all on his own. And additionally, he has an auto ability that says once per turn, when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, if this unit is in the crossover dress state, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose one of your columns and retire all of your opponent's rear guards in that column. So this is a very good pressure ability. If he hits a Vanguard, you can nuke one of your opponent's columns, potentially taking out 2 of their rear guards for the cost of a Soul Blast 1. Now, he does have to hit in order to do that, but if you restand him off a Jiva skill, he will have 2 chances per turn to do that. And again, he should be hitting for very big numbers, so if nothing else, you can make your opponents block 2 very large attacks if they don't want to get their board torn apart. Now, this skill is a once per turn skill, so if you attack with him and his attack hits and you use this skill, and then you restand him off a Jiva and his second attack hits as well, you won't be able to use the skill the second time to nuke another column. So do keep that in mind. So next we have 1 copy of Flaring Cannon Equip Bower Virina. So another one of our crossover dress units. And he has an activate ability that says if this unit is in the crossover dress state, you can Soul Blast 2 to choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So simple retire skill, it does cost 2 soul, but it's not once per turn, so you can use this multiple times to pick apart your opponent's board in 1 turn, assuming you have the soul to pay that cost repeatedly. But this skill does help set up for his auto ability as well. That says when this unit in the crossover dress state attacks a Vanguard, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of that battle for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles. Then if your opponent has 1 or less rearguards, you can counterblast 1, and until end of that battle, this unit gets drive -1 and this unit performs drive checks. So, pretty cool ability. If you empty out your opponent's entire board, he will gain an extra 10k from that. And then if you emptied out at least most of their board, and they have 1 or less rearguards, you can counterblast to get that extra drive on his attack. So, you don't have to discard or anything to get that, so that is a counterblast 1 for a +1, as well as a additional trigger chance. Now, him gaining the ability to do drive checks only lasts until the end of that battle, so if you attack with him and then restand him off a Jiva, you will have to pay that counterblast cost a second time if you want him to get a drive check on his second attack as well. But that skill isn't once per turn, so if you have the counterblast to do that, that is an option. So, this is a pretty cool card. I was focusing more heavily on this card, but I ended up dropping him just to 1 and using him as more of a, you know, it's good when I can use him kind of card. Because he is pretty cost heavy. The Soul Blast 2 costs that you might have to use repeatedly to empty out your opponent's board to set up the second skill. And then that being a counterblast cost on top of several other counterblast costs we have in this deck can make you very tight on resources. So he's more of a use it when you can kind of a card. But he does go very well with Braum Virina if you set both them up in your front row, since Braum's on hit skill can potentially empty out some of the rearguard circles that you need to set up his ability as well. So very cool card, but I am just keeping it to 1 for right now. So then our last grade 3 is one copy of the Blitz Order, Holy Flames That Binds. So this just lets you choose one of your units with Nirvana in its card name, and it gets power plus 20,000 until end of that battle. So this is just a basic 20k shield. I liked having this for the defensive option. This card isn't super necessary or anything, so if you want to replace this with another Prayer Dragon or literally anything else, you can feel free to do so. So that's all of our grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 2 copies of Sword Equipped Dragon Gallandite. So this is the first of our Prayer Dragon units. You can see the race on the card down at the bottom underneath the nation, though it is really, really small. But anyway, he's got an auto ability that says when this card becomes an original dress, you choose one of this card's outer dress units, and until end of turn, it gets power plus 5,000. And if the outer dress is Jeweled Sword Equipped Garo Virina, it gets an additional power plus 5,000. So, very simple power-up ability. Garo Virina is one of the grade 2 crossover dress units that we'll be going over here in a second. But if you use him as original dress for any of your Virinas, they get a free 5k for that turn. If it's specifically Garo Virina, then they get a free plus 10k for that turn. Now, the power gain does wear off at the end of that turn, but the skill is free. So, free power-up, always a good thing. So next we got 2 copies of Break Equipped Dragon Urbargo. So another Prayer Dragon unit, and his auto ability says when this card becomes an original dress, you can counterblast 1 to soul charge 1 and choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So this is the one that's made to work with Bower Virina, but you can use all the Prayer Dragons with anybody since none of them require a specific one. So he's a good control option for the deck, letting you pick off one of your opponent's rear guards and gain that resource. Again, if you're going into Bower Virina, the extra soul can fuel his skill to retire even more rear guards, setting up his ability. So just another useful card in picking apart your opponent's board. So next we have 2 copies of Jeweled Sword Equipped Garo Virina. So he is another one of the crossover dress units, and he has a continuous ability that says if this unit is in the crossover dress state, this unit gets power plus 10,000, and for the battle this unit attacked, when your opponent would call cards from hand to Guardian Circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So he'll be a 20k beater on his own, 30k beater if you use Gallandite to crossover dress into him, 40k if he Persona Road that turn. So he can very easily hit very big numbers. He has Guard Restrict, and you can restand him off a Jiva skill. So this card can be just a very annoying card, forcing your opponent to use up quite a bit of cards to block his attacks. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we have 3 copies of Sturdy Wall Equipped Vils Virina. So this is our last crossover dress unit in the deck, and he has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle by crossover dress, you choose a card from your drop zone with the crossover dress ability other than Sturdy Wall Equipped Vils Virina and put it into your hand. So this is another ability that's just a free +1, letting you get back one of your other Virinas from your drop back to your hand, potentially setting you up to do another crossover dress for your other column. So again, anything that helps mitigate the -2s that you're getting from crossover dressing is always a very good thing. And then he also has a continuous ability when he's on rearguard circle or guardian circle that says if this unit is in the crossover dress state, this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, and it gets power plus 5,000, shield plus 10,000. So he can become a 15k attacker and a 15k interceptor, as long as he's in the crossover dress state. And he's got that protection skill on top of that, so he can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects, so they can't pick him off with a retire or a bind skill, if it chooses anyway. So that can help preserve him on your field, so you can use him for that intercept to get the big shield value out of him. And of course, if you do intercept with him, him and his original dress all go to your drop. And potentially next turn, you can use Jiva's skill to revive the Trickstar and the Prayer Dragon in order to go into another copy of him or a different one of your Vairinas, if you so choose. So, a very versatile card for the deck. So that's all the grade 2s, moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Flash Equipped Dragon Brahmada. So this is the last Prayer Dragon we have in the deck. And he has an auto ability that says when this card becomes an original dress, you can Counterblast 1 to draw 2 cards and choose a card from your hand and discard it. So aesthetically, this is the Prayer Dragon that Trickstar combines with to become Braum Vairina. But actually, I prefer combining this to make Vil's Vairina, because if you discard another one of your crossover dress units for his skill, then Vil's Vairina can add that unit right back to your hand with his own skill, and this skill basically becomes a Counterblast 1 for a draw 2. So this is probably the best Prayer Dragon in the deck. It's very useful when going into any of your Vairinas, but doing that combo with Vil's Vairina is actually one of my favorite plays in this deck. So definitely a very important card in maintaining your card advantage. So the only other grade 1s we're running are our Sentinels. So we have 3 copies of Sparkle Rejector Dragon, just your standard perfect art. And of course 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that is all of our grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. First off, we do have our 4 copies of Trickstar. So as continuous ability, this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. So basic protection skill. So obviously this card is very vital for the deck since all your crossover dress units need Trickstar to go into them. So definitely a card you want to run at 4 of. So our only other grade 0s are our trigger lineup, and I am running rainbow triggers for this deck. So we have 4 crit, 3 front, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, I have 4 copies of Blaze Maiden Zone. So this is just the vanilla crits. You can run the effect one if you want to. It's pretty much up to you. Next for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Blaze Maiden Parama. So front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets shield plus 5,000. So you're a 20k shield, front trigger. Next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Flare Veil Dragon. So again, draw with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, shield plus 5,000. So you're a 10k shield, draw trigger. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Blaze Maiden Rona. So your vanilla heal, as always, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. And then lastly for the over trigger, we have Dragon Deity King of Resurgence, Dragveda. So his additional effect lets you choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. So, as always, restanding your Vanguard, very powerful skill. You don't lose any drives either, so you get 2 extra drive checks. And Nirvana Jiva's on-attack skill is not once per turn. So, if you do sack this, and you have the Counterblast to pay it, you can use Jiva's skill twice, and that'll actually give you 6 attacks that turn. So, very, very powerful card. So, that is the deck, so we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, we'll fight Chrono, why not? And we will be going second.
スタンドアップヴァンガード俺のターンだドローライドスキル発動スキル発動ターンエンド僕のターンドロー
Alright, so let's discard one of these Trick Stars to ride Reno. And our starter skill will let us drop. So then we'll go ahead and call Bramata over here. And attack with the Vanguard first. And he gets a crit trigger, so unfortunately our rear guard won't be able to hit him. So I had to just end our turn. And he's going to rush us with grade 1s. So we'll let that one through. Oh, we pull our over trigger. Alright. So power to the Vanguard, so that shuts his turn down. Although he can't take out our rear guard, which we'll just let him do. Alright, so let's drop that Braum Virina to ride Ryu. And Reno's skill lets us superior call a Trick Star from our deck. So we'll put him behind our Vanguard. So we'll go ahead and call Urbargo. And I think that's all for right now. So we will attack with the Vanguard first. And then we'll attack with Urbargo. And we got him 3 damage to none already. And he will ride into Chrono Jet, but fortunately he can't stride this turn, since we're only at grade 2. But he will fill up his field. So we'll let that one through. And we'll let that one through too. And we'll get a heal trigger, which we don't get, but we'll give the power to our Vanguard. And I could guard that one, but I think I want to let it through too, so I can have the extra counter blast. Alright, so now we can discard. We'll drop that draw to ride Nirvana Jiva. And then Ryu skill lets us check the top 7 for a prayer dragon, which we didn't find. Which I figured we wouldn't, since we've already seen most of them in the deck, actually. So let's see, we will go ahead and use Nirvana Jiva's activate ability. And we will discard Trickstar. And Superior Call Trickstar, as well as Brahmata, back from our drop. And then we will cross over Dress into Vill's Virena, which will trigger Brahmata skill to let us counterblast. And draw 2, and then we can discard 1. So let's drop one of these Brahmatas. And then Vill's Virena lets us add Braum Virena back from our drop to our hand. So then, let's see, we will go ahead and cross over Dress again into Braum Virena, which triggers Urbargo's ability to let us counterblast once more. And Soul Charge, and then we can retire a rear guard. So let's take out Gigi. And let's see, I will go ahead and attack with what we've got. So let's attack with Braum Virena first. Oh, and he lets it through. So now Braum Virena's ability will let us Soul Blast 1. And then we can nuke a column, so he's only got 1 full column, so we'll take out those 2 rear guards. And then we can attack with Nirvana Jiva and use her skill to counterblast. And we will restand Braum Virena. And he guards for 2 to pass. And we get a crit trigger, but I am not going to risk that, so I'm going to give the crit to Braum and the power to Vils. And yeah, it's a good thing I didn't risk it. So now we will go ahead and attack with Braum Virena once again. And he has to perfect guard that. So then we'll attack with Vils Virena. And he guards again. So now he's going to stride into Fate Rider Dragon. And Chrono Jet skill let him bottom deck one of our rear guards. And he's going to send Braum Virena. The whole stack goes to the bottom and it lets you choose what order to do it in, but it doesn't really matter much. Alright, so we just need 5 to block that, so let's guard that one with Garo Virena. And then Fate Rider skill will let him bottom deck one of his rear guards and call 1 grade higher. So he will get his 3rd attack in. And Gigi's skill will let him draw as well. So I think I'm going to let this one through.
ライブチェックドライブチェックドライブチェック
And he got no triggers off of that, actually.
ダメージチェックドロートリガー
But we got a draw trigger.
パワープラス
ヴァンガードにアタック
So again, we just need 5 to block that. So let's guard with Brahmada.
ガードします
ターンエンド
僕のターンドロー
Alright, so now we can Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
Alright, so I'm going to use Jiva's ability again to discard Gallandite,
スキルを発動します
and then we'll Superior Call Trickstar and Gallandite back from our drop.
スペリオルコール
And then I'll cross over Dress into Vill's Virena again. Since I only have one face-up counterblast anyway, we can't really use Bower. So Gallandite's
スキルを
skill,
発動します
will give him an extra 5k.
パワープラス
And Vill's Virena
スキルを発動します
lets us add a crossover dress from our drop to our hand, so we'll get one of these Garo Virenas back. And I think we are good. So we will attack with our right Vill's Virena first,
ヴァンガードにアタッ
since
ク
he's got more power.
ノーガードダメージチェック
So then we'll attack with Nirvana
ヴァン
Jiva
ガードにアタック
and use her skill
ニルバーナのスキル発動
to counter blast and restand our right Vill's Virena.
ガード
ドライブチェックドライブチェック
And we check 2 perfect guards. So then we'll attack with our left
ヴ
Vills
ァンガードにアタック
ガードだ
Andy guards. And then we'll attack with our right Vills
ヴァ
again.
ンガードにアタック
Andy perfect guards again.
スキル発動完全ガードだ
So he managed to survive, but we got him up to 5 damage.
ターンエンド
俺のターンだドローストライドジェネレーション
Now he strides into Chrono Dragon next stage.
ヴァンガードにアタック
So let's see. We will go ahead and perfect guard that one.
スキルを発動します
And let's see. We'll discard. We'll drop this draw trigger, I guess.
完全ガードです
ドライブチェッククリティカルトリガークリテ
He
ィカ
gets a
ルプラ
crit
ス
trigger.
パワープラスドライブチェックドライブチェック姫し思い並び立て魂でつながる仲間たち
So now next stage returns to his G deck, and Chrono Jet
ガ
restands,
ードにアタック
and he can attack again with Guard Restrict this time.
並び立て魂でつながる仲間たちパワープラス
And he still has Twin Drive, but his one rear guard has 2 crit. And I need at least 1 face-up damage to be able to do anything next turn. So I think I'm going to have to take a risk here and let this through and hope that he doesn't get a crit trigger.
ノーガード
ドライブチェックドライブチェック クリティカルトリガー
Oh, and he got one. Come
ク
on.
リティカルプラスパワープラス
Alright, well now I'm gonna have to rely on a heal.
姫し力を解き放て
ダメージチェックダメージチェックやったフィールド
Oh, and we got it. Miracle heal. Nice. So we will heal 1. And we will give that power to our Vanguard.
パワープラス
ヴァンガードにアタック
Alright, so let's intercept with one of these Vils Virina since he's a 15k shield. And then we'll go ahead and put this crit with it. And boy, we just barely survived that. But we can now Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
And then, let's see, we will go ahead and use Nirvana Jiva's ability once more to discard one from our hand. So let's drop Garo Virina
スキル発動
and Superior Call Trickstar and Gallandite back from our drop.
スペリオルコール
And then cross over Dress into Bower Virina
クロスオーバードレス
and Gallandite skill gives him an extra 5,000 power. So we'll go ahead and use Bower Virina's activate ability to Soul Blast 2.
スキルを発動します
And we will retire one of his rear guards. So we'll take out Gungnam. And we've got the soul to spare, so we'll go ahead and use it again. Soul Blast 2.
スキルを発動します
And take out GG. So now we've emptied out his board. So now we can go ahead and attack. And we'll attack with Bower Virina
ヴ
first.
ァンガードにアタックします
And his skill activates, giving him an extra 10k since his board is empty. And we could use his skill to do a drive check now, but I'm actually going to wait. And he perfect guards.
完全ガードだ
So now we'll attack with Nirvana
ヴァン
Jiva
ガードにアタックします
and use Jiva's skill to counterblast
ミルダーダのスキル発動
and restand Bower Virina.
ガード
And he guards for 1 to pass.
クリティカルトリガー
Oh, and we got a crit trigger. So we'll give both those effects to Jiva.
クリティカルプラスパワープラス
And we should have him with that.
ドライブチェックこれが僕の本気ですアタック
ダメージチェック
And yeah, we got him. Alright.
本気のファイト楽しかったです
So there you go. That was my Nirvana Jiva crossover dress deck. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. I believe next up I'll be doing my Youth Burke deck. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.